So someone commented on a YouTube video a while back when we say, put what you want to see in the comments below. One of the questions was, what is something that you have learned since you have started waterfowl hunting more? Like, what more have you learned? And so I made a list of the things that I've learned that have drastically changed in my hunting repertoire. The first thing being, I was so focused on my camouflage more than I was my hide, then focusing on brushing up my blind more, which sounds dumb now, but looking back, it made a lot of sense. Now I care a lot more about the hide, and I could wear pink into the blind and still kill birds. So I think your hide is a lot more important than the camouflage that you're wearing. The second thing is, when I would go duck hunting, I would think you need to put out duck decoys to kill ducks. And I have been proven wrong on that very many times, where I know people who throw out 30 goose floaters with 2 duck spinners and they kill more ducks than a lot of people, versus a guy who throws out 3 dozen of just mallard decoys. And the reason for that is I think they can see those geese a lot further away, and it serves as like a comfort decoy for them. Another thing that I learned is that how important duck and goose calling is, and I always knew that, but I didn't see the effects because now I'm the control. So I know what crappy goose and duck calling sounds like, but once I put in the time and practice, it made a world of difference. So I've been around waterfowl hunting pretty much my entire life. I was 1.5 years old, and I feel like I've just always been submersed in it. Whereas someone like Cal has started, 6 years ago? Yep. And he has learned a lot in those 6 years, where I feel like my learning was very gradual in 25 years. So Cal's up next to see what he has learned in the last 6 years.
All right, so obviously Joey's been hunting a lot longer than me. So I've been lucky enough to, I will say, to have hunted with some really great hunters, guys that have hunted for a really long time. So I have learned a lot very quickly. I would say one of the biggest things that I have learned is how to read your decoy situation. You know, there's a couple of instances that really come to my mind. Just kind of a quick backstory, you know, there's a pond that our buddy Matt had lived on. And so, you know, one day I went out there and I hunted it. I think Matt and I hunted it, and I put out like 20 decoys in this pond. It was like probably 15 mallard floaters and a few goose floaters. The pond typically was holding like 3 to 5 geese. You know, all of my kind of backstory was like, yeah, throw all the decoys you got or whatever. You know, you start off with not very many, so, you know, all the decoys you got is 24. So, you know, I threw 20 out there, and we had birds coming, and they were just gone, you know, flying right by, didn't care about what we were doing. And at that point, I was like, okay, maybe I need to kind of rethink what I'm doing here in terms of what they're used to seeing. So I hunted that, I think, the next weekend with my brother, and I only put out like 5 decoys. So I put out like 2 mallards together, a drake and a hen, and then I put out like 3 goose floaters. And we had probably only 10 geese that actually came through that day. But we had a group of like 3 geese that came through, and I'm a much better caller for geese now than I was then. And I was able to work these birds for a good period of time. You know, we could have pass shot them easily at about 20 yards, but we really thought they were going to land. So that was a really telltale sign to me, like, holy hell, you know, these birds, you got to figure out what they're used to, what they're comfortable seeing. That's going to play a huge role in what they're willing to come and land in. Another thing I think I've learned a ton about is scouting. When I first started hunting birds, obviously everybody's like, you got to scout. To find the birds, that's 100% true. But I didn't really know what I was looking for. I mean, I'm driving around, I'm looking for birds. You know, birds are flying in the air, birds are sitting on a pond, birds are eating in a field. And maybe this is dumb, you know, but it took me a little bit to figure out, like, okay, birds are doing one of 3 things. They're loafing, they're eating, or they're roosting. And so you're trying to figure out where birds are coming from and where birds are going to. And, you know, obviously we hunt some X fields, but we also hunt some traffic fields. And so for us, one of the big things is understanding not only where are these birds eating, where are these birds coming from to go eat, and where are they going when they're leaving their eating spot. And one of the really crucial things in understanding these birds is actually figuring out what they are doing. So, you know, if they're leaving the day and they're going back to water, they're roosting, you know. And when you're set up in these different situations, you can hunt the roost one time and you're screwed, right? You're blowing that situation. When you hunt it on an X field, you might get a couple days. Sometimes an insane field is going to be good for a week, and then you're getting a few hunts out of it. With trafficking, which we do quite a bit of, you have an opportunity to hunt those birds in different fields on their flight line to, let's say, an X field, and be successful for a sustained period of time as long as they might be using that X field. So you might get a few more hunts out of that situation. So like I said, understanding what you're actually scouting for. Are you scouting an X field because you have permission on it, or are you figuring out they're coming from this water going to this field and I have 7 different permissions in between that space? That's what you're trying to figure out and try and decide where you're going to hunt. I think the thing that people get so caught up, or that people really get addicted to about waterfowling, is there's no exact science. This is literally just our experiences. This is what we've noticed. This is the way that we hunt now. And I'm not saying that I haven't learned enough to know that in 3 years it could be completely different. My opinion could change. We could be hunting them a totally different way. So, that's the best part. These are just a few points that we've brought up. There's a ton of other, obviously, situations that we've learned and things we've figured out along the way. But thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and other platforms that we're on, and we'll see you soon.